Welcome back. Everything you do as an entrepreneur requires persuasion. You persuade investors to fund you. You persuade customers to buy. You persuade talent to join. You persuade partners to collaborate. Persuasion isn't manipulation. It's the essential skill of moving people toward action that serves them. Here's a distinction that matters deeply. Manipulation exploits people for your benefit. Persuasion aligns people around mutual benefit. Manipulation obscures truth. Persuasion illuminates it. The techniques we'll cover today can be used either way. Your character, your commitment to ethics, determines which path you choose. This connects to compassion, one of the 6 C's we've built throughout this program. Genuine persuasion starts with genuinely caring about the other person's interests. When you truly want what's best for them, persuasion becomes service. When you only want what's best for you, persuasion becomes manipulation. The techniques are similar. The intent is everything. At Stanford's D School, I taught design thinking that begins with empathy, deeply understanding the user's context before proposing solutions. Ethical persuasion requires the same discipline, understanding what others genuinely need before attempting to influence them. The question, what might I be missing about their perspective, should guide every persuasive interaction. I've spent decades watching pitches to investors, to university committees, to government ministries across 40 countries. The difference between proposals that succeed and those that fail often isn't the underlying idea. It's how effectively the idea is communicated. Brilliant ideas, poorly presented, lose to good ideas, brilliantly presented. That's not fair, but it's real. Today we cover 4 areas: principles of persuasion, building credibility, logical and emotional appeals, and ethical persuasion. Master these, and you'll dramatically increase your ability to move people toward your vision while serving their genuine interests. Psychologist Robert Cialdini identified 6 universal principles that drive human decision-making. Understanding these gives you a framework for ethical influence, but remember, these are tools that can be used for good or ill. The first principle, reciprocity. Humans feel obligated to return favors. When you give first, value, help, information, connection, people naturally want to give back. This is why free samples work, why helpful content marketing works, why doing favors before asking for them works. Give first, generously, and without obvious strings attached. The second principle, commitment and consistency. Once people commit to something, they want to remain consistent with that commitment. Start with small asks that people can easily say yes to. Each yes makes the next yes more likely. A customer who signs up for your free newsletter is more likely to eventually buy than someone who's never engaged at all. The third principle, social proof. People look to others' behavior to guide their own decisions. 10,000 customers trust us is persuasive because it signals that others have already validated your value. Testimonials, case studies, user numbers, logos of respected clients, these all leverage social proof. We assume the crowd knows something we don't. The fourth principle, authority. We defer to experts and those with demonstrated credentials. Your degrees, your years of experience, your previous successful ventures, these create authority. But authority can also be demonstrated through deep knowledge, clear expertise, and confident delivery. Show your authority, don't just claim it. The fifth principle, liking. We're more easily persuaded by people we like. Similarity helps. We like people who are like us. Genuine compliments help. We like people who appreciate us. Familiarity helps. We like people we've encountered before. Building authentic rapport isn't just nice, it's strategically essential for persuasion. The sixth principle, scarcity. Things become more valuable when they're rare or limited. Only 3 spots left in this cohort, or this offer expires Friday, create urgency. But false scarcity backfires badly. People resent being manipulated. Use scarcity only when it's genuine. Real deadlines and real limitations are persuasive. Manufactured ones erode trust. Let me show you how these principles work together with a case study every entrepreneur should study: Steve Jobs' original iPhone launch in 2007. Watch that keynote and you'll see a masterclass in layered persuasion. Jobs opens with authority, reminding the audience that Apple has already revolutionized personal computers and music. That's not arrogance, it's establishing credibility for what comes next. He uses social proof by referencing how many millions of iPods have been sold. He builds anticipation through scarcity. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone, positioning the iPhone as something unprecedented and exclusive. He structures the entire presentation around emotional appeal, the frustration of existing smartphones, the delight of a better way. And only after the audience is emotionally committed does he walk through the technical specifications that provide logical justification. Every Cialdini principle is present, and none of them feel manipulative because Jobs genuinely believed the product would improve people's lives. That's the difference. The principles are the same whether you're manipulating or serving. The intent is what separates the two. Our Stanford colleague B.J. Fogg, who founded the Persuasive Technology Lab, adds an important insight. Persuasion works best when you make the desired behavior easy. Motivation alone isn't enough. You must also reduce friction. The most persuasive request is one that's easy to say yes to. Remove obstacles, simplify the action, make the path clear. These principles work because they're mental shortcuts humans use to navigate a complex world. We can't analyze everything from first principles, so we use these heuristics. Understanding them helps you present your ideas in ways that align with how people actually make decisions, not how we think they should decide. Before people accept your message, they evaluate the messenger. Credibility is the foundation of all persuasion. Without it, nothing else you do matters. Aristotle called this ethos, the character and credibility of the speaker. 2,000 years later, it's still the starting point. People ask, can I trust this person? Do they know what they're talking about? Do they have my interests in mind? Your answers to these unspoken questions determine whether you're truly heard. Competence and warmth are the two dimensions of credibility research consistently identifies. Competence means you have the knowledge and ability to deliver. Warmth means you care about the other person's interests, not just your own. You need both. Competence without warmth feels cold and self-serving. Warmth without competence feels nice but unreliable. Demonstrate competence through specificity. Vague claims sound like bluster. Specific details signal deep knowledge. We understand the market is weak and forgettable. We've analyzed 47 competitors across 3 segments and identified a gap in the mid-market B2B space growing 23% annually is credible. Specificity is the language of genuine expertise. Demonstrate warmth through genuine curiosity about them. Ask questions about their situation before presenting your solution. Reference their specific challenges. Show you've done homework on their context, not just polished your own pitch. People can tell immediately when you see them as a target versus when you see them as a person worth understanding. Admit what you don't know. This builds credibility counterintuitively. We haven't cracked international expansion yet. That's our focus for next year. Is more trustworthy than pretending you've solved everything. Honesty about limitations makes your claims of strength more believable. Sophisticated audiences are skeptical of anyone who claims perfection. Here's where inquiry becomes a credibility tool. Instead of asserting your expertise, ask questions that reveal it. Have you considered how the new regulations will affect your supply chain? Demonstrates knowledge while engaging them. Questions that illuminate issues they hadn't considered build credibility more effectively than claims about your credentials. Aristotle also gave us logos and pathos, logical argument and emotional appeal. Effective persuasion uses both, calibrated to your audience. Logical appeals use evidence, data, and reasoning. Our solution reduces costs by 30%, based on a pilot with 3 customers, is a logical appeal. Some audiences, engineers, analysts, financial professionals, weight logical appeals heavily. They want to see your reasoning, test your assumptions, and verify your data. Give them the rigor they need. Structure your logic clearly. Claim, then evidence, then implication. We believe X because of Y evidence, which means Z for you. Walk through your reasoning step by step, anticipate objections, and address them proactively. If there's a flaw in your logic, sophisticated audiences will find it. Better to acknowledge and address it yourself first. The limits of logic are well documented. Here's what decades of research confirms. Humans are not primarily logical decision makers. We make decisions emotionally, then rationalize them logically afterward. This doesn't mean logic doesn't matter. It does, especially for post-decision justification, but logic alone rarely moves people to action. Emotional appeals connect your message to feelings: hope, fear, pride, belonging, aspiration, relief. Imagine a world where no child goes without access to quality education is an emotional appeal. It paints a picture that resonates with values and desires beyond calculation. Emotion creates urgency and motivation that logic alone cannot generate. Stories are the most powerful vehicles for emotional persuasion. We covered storytelling earlier in this series. Here's why it matters for persuasion specifically. Stories bypass rational resistance. When someone analyzes your argument, they're actively looking for flaws. When they're absorbed in a story, they're experiencing your truth. The same message in story form is dramatically more persuasive. Here's the 2-step framework: emotion to motivate, logic to justify. Use emotional appeal to create desire for action. Then provide logical justification to make the decision feel rational and defensible. People want to feel that their decisions make sense to themselves and others, even when the decisions were actually driven by feeling. Give them both. Everything we've covered can be used to manipulate or to genuinely serve. Let's be explicit about the ethical boundaries that must guide your practice. The first test of ethical persuasion: would you use these techniques on people you love? Would you persuade your mother this way, your best friend, your children? If a technique feels appropriate for loved ones, it's probably ethical. If it only works on strangers you don't care about, question it seriously. The second test: transparency. Could you explain what you're doing and still be effective? I'm sharing customer testimonials because people trust the experience of others is transparent and entirely fine. I'm creating fake urgency to pressure you into deciding before you're ready wouldn't survive exposure. If your technique requires hiddenness to work, reconsider using it. The third test: mutual benefit. Does the person being persuaded genuinely benefit from the action you're encouraging? Persuading someone to buy a product that solves their real problem is ethical. Persuading someone to buy something they don't need with money they don't have is exploitation. Your success should create their success, not extract from them. Persuasion that doesn't genuinely serve the other party isn't success. It's delayed failure. The short-term win creates long-term cost. I ask myself before every persuasion attempt, if they say yes, will they thank me in 2 years? If the answer is uncertain, I reconsider my approach. For Kazakhstan entrepreneurs specifically, you're operating in a relatively small, interconnected business community. Reputation travels fast. The investor you manipulate today has dinner with the investor you need tomorrow. The partner you exploit tells colleagues. In tight ecosystems, ethical persuasion isn't just morally right, it's strategically essential for long-term success. There's another dimension to persuasion in the Kazakh business context that deserves attention. In relationship first cultures, the most powerful persuasion often happens not in the formal pitch, but in the informal spaces around it, over tea, during a walk, through a trusted intermediary who carries your message before you're even in the room. Understanding this means preparing differently. Instead of polishing your slide deck for the 100th time, invest that hour in understanding who influences your decision maker, what relationships you can activate, and how to create contexts where persuasion happens naturally through connection rather than presentation. The Kazakh entrepreneur who understands this has an enormous advantage when working internationally as well, because relationship-based persuasion is more universal than most Western business schools acknowledge. Silicon Valley may celebrate the cold pitch, but even there, the most consequential deals happen through warm introductions and personal trust. Respect for autonomy is non-negotiable. Ethical persuasion provides information and makes a compelling case while respecting the other person's right to decide differently. High-pressure tactics that prevent clear thinking violate autonomy. Take all the time you need to decide, I'm confident this is right for you, and I want you to be confident too, respects their agency. Persuasion as service. Reframe it this way. You're not trying to get something from people. You're trying to help them see something that would benefit them. If your product genuinely solves their problem, they need to know about it. If your vision genuinely offers opportunity, they deserve to hear it clearly. Persuasion is helping people say yes to things that serve them. In the AG era, persuasion faces new challenges and opportunities. AI can generate personalized persuasive content at scale. It can identify psychological patterns and craft messages that exploit them. This means two things. The bar for persuasion rises. Everyone has access to AI-enhanced persuasion tools, and authentic human persuasion becomes more valuable precisely because it's rarer. Let me be specific about how to use AI ethically to enhance your persuasion. Before an important pitch or negotiation, use AI to analyze your audience's public statements, company filings, or social media to understand what they care about and what language resonates with them. Use AI to stress test your arguments. Ask it to play the role of a skeptical investor and poke holes in your pitch. The objections AI raises are often the same ones your audience will have, and preparing for them makes you dramatically more persuasive. Use AI to draft multiple versions of your message, one leading with data, one leading with story, one leading with urgency, and then choose the approach that best fits your audience. But here is the ethical boundary that matters. Use AI to understand your audience better, not to manipulate them more precisely. The goal is to communicate more effectively, not to exploit psychological vulnerabilities at scale. If your AI-enhanced persuasion wouldn't survive the transparency test, if you couldn't explain your process and still be effective, reconsider what you're doing. Use AI to prepare for persuasive moments, to research your audience, to refine your arguments, to anticipate objections. But in the moment of persuasion itself, be fully human. Your conviction, your presence, your genuine care for the other person, these remain irreplaceable. AI can optimize. Only you can authentically connect. Here is your practice for this week. Choose one upcoming situation where you need to persuade someone, a pitch, a proposal, a request for a meeting. Before you make your case, identify which of Cialdini's 6 principles are naturally available to you. Do you have social proof you could share? Is there a genuine scarcity element? Can you give something of value first to activate reciprocity? Then apply the 3 ethical tests. Would you use this approach with a loved one? Does it survive transparency? And does the other person genuinely benefit? Preparing this way takes 20 minutes and transforms the quality of your persuasion from instinctive to intentional. Resources to deepen your learning. Influence by Robert Cialdini, the foundational text on principles of persuasion. Persuasion is his follow-up on setting up persuasive contexts. B.J. Fogg's work on behavior design shows how to make desired actions easy. The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt explains the relationship between emotion and reasoning in decision-making. For this module, you will practice inquiry-based learning through the SMILE platform. Your assessment has 3 parts that develop your critical thinking and collaborative skills around ethical persuasion. Part 1, post 3 questions. Create and post 3 critical thinking and creative questions related to persuasion and influence. Your questions should explore ethical boundaries, cultural variations, or the intersection of AI and human persuasion. The best questions emerge from genuine curiosity about navigating influence responsibly. Part 2, evaluate 3 peer questions. Review and evaluate 3 questions posted by your peers. Rate them based on ethical sophistication, practical relevance for entrepreneurs, depth of insight into human psychology, and potential to generate meaningful discussion about responsible influence. Part 3. Comment on 3 peer questions. Select 3 peer questions and contribute substantive comments. Share examples of ethical and unethical persuasion you've witnessed. Explore cultural differences in what constitutes manipulation, or analyze how AI changes the persuasion landscape. Your comments should advance the collective understanding. Sample questions to guide your thinking. Question 1. If Cialdini's persuasion principles work because they exploit cognitive shortcuts, and AI can now apply these principles at massive scale with personalized precision, what new ethical frameworks do we need to protect people from manipulation while still allowing legitimate persuasion? Question 2. The module suggests that persuasion becomes manipulation when it serves only the persuader's interests. But in practice, how do entrepreneurs honestly evaluate whether their product genuinely serves customers or whether they've convinced themselves it does? Question 3. In cultures where indirect communication and saving face are valued, how do the ethics of persuasion differ from Western frameworks? And what might Kazakhstan entrepreneurs need to consider when persuading across these cultural boundaries? The most sustainably successful founders I know are also among the most ethical persuaders. They persuade through genuine passion, deep knowledge, and real results that serve their customers. They build reputations that open doors for decades. The manipulators might win a battle. The ethical persuaders win careers.